In today's video, I'm going to share with you the 8 best things about Ark Survival Ascended. Sorry, I'm not getting onto more Valguero content. As you can probably hear by my voice at the moment, it's not doing the best. It's pretty sore, so I'm not going to be getting into the Valguero content today, but I'm looking through the map and going through planning some videos. They'll be coming out to you over the weekend. Sorry for the delays, but I'm going to give you a video which I've recorded previously, the 8 greatest things in Ark Survival Ascended in my opinion, and I'll follow up tomorrow with the 8 worst things in Ark Survival Ascended. So see what you think of these 8 things. Hopefully you agree with them. If there's anything I missed, comment that down below, and if there's anything that you don't agree with, also comment that down below. In number 8, I have decided to put quality of life. Survival Evolved did have a few little nags, and some of those nags have been solved in Survival Ascended, and that is actually really useful. One of the main things for me, I'm sure it was for a lot of people as well, was the new building mechanics which were introduced into Survival Ascended. The new building mechanics which got introduced were absolutely amazing, because they didn't need to build 2 walls high to fit stuff in. Now the 1 wall can fit your larger storage boxes, and smithies can also go fully back to the wall now. There was no reason why that shouldn't have happened previously, but you always had to demolish a wall, then put your smithy in and take it out. So there was a lot which was great for building. You can now also switch ranged weapon attachments just by pressing R, and you can access shoulder pet inventories by doing that as well. And generally getting shoulder pets off and on is easier. You can place map markers as well. Map markers are something which, you know, while you could place on Survival Evolved, you had to put in the exact coordinates and get it there first. It was fine if you were going to a known location, someone just give you the coordinates, but if you just wanted to ping somewhere where you were, then, you know, perhaps not the best. And supply drops are actually usable. While they did fix this in Genesis Part 1, and they actually broke it initially with the island, they released an update which made them way less OP, and since then supply drops weren't great. In the Genesis expansions they're pretty good though, but in Survival Ascended they are very good, and that certainly has helped with the quality life side of things. Now at number 7 is a point that isn't really applicable to the game yet, but Ark Survival Ascended has new map content. They're not out yet, I know, so some people may disagree with this point here, but the fact that we're getting new maps is the only reason why I'm putting it in at number 7, because, you know, if they're not out yet, I don't know what the quality of those maps are going to be like. But the fact that we're getting new content for Survival Ascended, and it's not just the maps which we had before remastered, that is something which I'm really happy to see. While I love seeing all the renditions of the Ark Survival Evolved maps in Survival Ascended, I really do like seeing new content, and we'll get into some of that further down the list for the best things in Survival Ascended. But having new maps is an exciting thing in my opinion, and a good thing about Survival Ascended, and I think it's a good thing that Wildcard has done. While they're not out yet, I hope that can be much better than the Ark Aquatica situation. The next one only really applies to PC players, but you know, it's there for console players as well. It helps them run DLSS and FSR support. That was a big thing missing from Survival Evolved. Now of course with Survival Evolved they could have added it in an update, but when it released in 2015 none of that technology existed. It's all new technology. Your AI frame generation with your FSR frame generation, they got rid of NVIDIA frame gen now for FSR frame gen only, which personally I'd love to still have both in the game, but you know, FSR frame generation is better than NVIDIA in terms of everyone can use it. NVIDIA is locked to 40 series and higher, so even I can't use that, and I'm on a 3090, which is a reasonably high-end card. But having DLSS and FSR support, although DLSS and FSR have been a little bit bugged in Survival Ascended, they don't really add many more frames to the game. Changing the resolution doesn't really do that either. It's really the settings that change the performance. It's still a really nice feature to have. I guess it comes down to quality of life as well, but it's quality of life
under the settings of the game, and I personally think having DLSS support in Survival Ascended and FSR support as well is good, especially when it becomes a little bit more optimized, and it still does give you performance gains for pretty much similar visuals. They're almost exact really. The anti-aliasing's a little bit weird in Survival Ascended, but it's nothing major, and I would actually really like to see it in Survival Evolved, especially for some people playing Evolved and they can't really run it properly because it still is a demanding game. Not everyone out here has insane GPUs for, you know, those lower end laptops. It could actually be a pretty good thing to add that to Ark. I'm sure there's probably a mod somewhere out for that as well. And speaking of mods, in at number 5 I've got mod support for console. That was a big thing with Survival Evolved, the fact that consoles had no access to mods. Now, before Survival Ascended released in October of 2023, Ark Survival Evolved was pretty much kept alive by the Fjordur DLC that was really successful, but that did come out a year before, and mainly the modding community. They were very active, loads of mods existed for Survival Evolved at that point, and mods continued to be developed for the anticipation of Ark 2, but then obviously Survival Ascended released instead, and that's what we're working with now in 2025. But the fact that they built mods into the game is absolutely amazing, especially for console players. Like, oh my god, it is so much better that now they have access to all those mods that us PC players have as well. I'm not a believer that console players shouldn't have access to mods and you know, mods should never be on console, because in my opinion, having mods on console is a great thing for people who want it. If you don't want to have mods in your game, then you don't have to install the mods. But for people who do want mods for extra quality of life improvements, extra creatures and things, because ultimately the mod developers are developing faster in quotation marks than the actual developers, because there's a lot more of them, and you know, generally the mods are smaller than developing a whole new game. In fact, they basically always are smaller. I can't really think of anything else. Maybe Survival of the Fittest sort of come around as a mod thing, Survival of the Fittest 2, when that released on Survival Evolved. But still, thinking about it, you get a lot more mods, you get a lot more content flowing through, then you're obviously going to get new maps, and that is great. And having all the community so invested in the idea of the game and enjoying the game to the point where they start modding for it, and then other people try out their mods, it's a really nice thing. It gives a nice sense of community to the game. And also there's loads of Ark mods which I can't really live without, like Awesome Spyglass is one which I literally don't play Ark without, and the Soul Traps mod as well. Sometimes I like using Creature Finder Deluxe as well, especially if I want some really high level creatures for breeding. There's great mods out there, and it's an absolutely amazing thing that mods are now on Survival Ascended. At number 4, I've decided to go with Club Ark, something which is obviously not in Survival Evolved. It's a Survival Ascended exclusive, but I still think, in my opinion, that Club Ark is a really good thing, especially if you want to play with some friends. While playing, you know, Ark servers with your friends is a good option, and you can have lots of good fun. If you just want to have some quick fun, do some missions and things like that, and not have to deal with like the rest of the Genesis expansion, which isn't even in Ark Survival Ascended, by the way, then hopping on Club Ark is a really great thing. There's some great mini games on there, and you can have a really good time. Multiplayer support is also generally just a lot better in Survival Ascended than it is on Survival Evolved, and you know, that still goes to this day. Survival Evolved still has many issues with its multiplayer, and servers are sort of the only way you can get around that, but running your own servers is a lot harder, and getting on a game of Club Ark is pretty easy, and you can just go and play some games with your friends. A shame that it sort of replaced Ark Survival of the Fittest. I would have loved still Survival of the Fittest in Survival Ascended as well. So especially considering Wildcard redeveloped that almost like about the same time. It came out like December 23, I think, maybe. It was about that point, or it was December 2022. Around that sort of time was when they redeveloped Survival of the Fittest, and I really did like that new version. So if that new version did come back to Survival Ascended, I'd absolutely love that. But Club Arc is by no means a terrible replacement, and it is a good thing, and it's great for some multiplayer fun with your friends. Bob's Tall Tales is also a great thing, and that is my number 3 for the greatest things about Ark Survival Ascended. I was originally quite skeptical with it. I was like, you know, they said we weren't going to have to pay for any of the DLC. In all fairness, we didn't have to, but there were creatures now locked behind paywalls. The Oasosaur was the creature for the first Bob's Tall Tales, and you know, ultimately you had to pay for that. And obviously I have paid for Bob's Tall Tales now because I've got it on the list, and having all the extra story elements of the game, all the extra cosmetics and the extra things you get with Bob's Tall Tales, it's added a really nice extra aesthetic to Ark Survival Ascended, and it's come away from what we had in Genesis Part 1 and Genesis Part 2, and some of the main criticisms of that being that it was all too techy. I want to go back to the more sort of primitive things. It's not insanely primitive, but it's like pre-industrial revolution stuff, maybe sort of during the industrial revolution. It feels like it'd be stuff you'd be using like 200 years ago, whatever. It's that sort of stuff. It's not all high-tech futuristic, and I do think that is a good thing, because personally I was never a lover of all the tech stuff. While I did appreciate the tech gear, and I think it makes sense for the Genesis expansions, I do like that sort of move more to the more primitive side of things, and ultimately it's just good content, and it's new content which you can't get on Survival Evolved, and it is good content, and that is content which I enjoy. In at number 2, I'm decided to put new dinos, and I think this is one of the main reasons why people, you know, want to play ASA for the new content. When they think of new content, if they want to play Survival Ascended, they think of new dinos, except for the Pyromane, because we'll get onto that creature later. It's got a specific point in the worst bits of this video. But new creatures like the Shartosaurus, the Oasosaur even, you've got so many. I'll put them on screen right now, and they've all got their varying abilities. They are frankly amazing creatures with interesting taming methods and cool new abilities. I could go on and on and on about all of the new creatures and all of their abilities, but I won't bore you with that in today's video. They are really interesting, however, and I would recommend you go taming them. Even if you don't have Bob's Tall Tales, you're missing out on a few, but there's still a good amount which you can get on the maps, which you'll find: Aberration, Scorched Earth, and Extinction. No idea why I did it in that order, but there we go. And it's just great new content. It brings new life to the game, while yes, it makes it even more evident that some creatures really need a TLC, and it makes other creatures useless with these new creatures coming in. They are still new creatures, and so far all of them have been good, and I haven't thought, oh, that's a useless one, or that's not cool. I do like all the new creatures, and the fact that they're not just like the basic knockout taming method or passive tame, really, it's a nice thing to see. And in number 1, probably the main reason or the main thing that people think about when they play ASA compared to Survival Evolved is the visuals. You know, the visuals are absolutely stunning in Survival Ascended compared to Survival Evolved. The water is a great improvement, and generally all things UE5 visual wise are so much better with Survival Ascended than Survival Evolved. Obviously you can tell they're the same game, and you can tell most of the models have been reused for creatures in the game, but the lighting and especially the foliage, although sometimes there's a little bit too much foliage going on there, is absolutely wonderful in Survival Ascended, and I love all of the visuals that you get with the new game. And that was sort of the main push. It's Survival Ascended. It is Survival Evolved now reimagined in UE5. Now, it's not just an exact port into UE5. There is obviously new content like we've discussed, and new creatures, and things are being sort of revamped and remastered forward, and ultimately the visual change is the thing which most people are going to be thinking of. Again, most of the models for the creatures are the same, but the lighting improvements and the foliage improvements, the animation improvements, the way the foliage moves and reacts to your body, the water, again, I'm going to say it, moves so much more realistically. It does look a heck of a lot better. While the player models look a little bit goofy, the visuals in Survival Ascended are stunning if you run it on the higher settings, and it is the main reason why anyone would really get into Survival Ascended in the first place. It's the first thing you see when you look at the game. It's, wow, that game looks a whole lot better than Survival Evolved.
So, what do you think of that? The 8 best things, in my opinion, coming from Survival Ascended. I hope that everyone is enjoying the Valguero map release. It's a pretty cool one, in my opinion, and I hope that you've all agreed with this list reasonably. There's some things which definitely you can't really argue with, they're just straight facts, but I do want to know your thoughts and comments down below, and I will get to the Valguero content soon. I hope that you've enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!
And give it up for our patrons, Ekaterina Puchkova and Karina Thorne, Dominic Maciejewski, sorry about that name, and everyone else that is on this list. All the people I've mentioned are paid members, and if you feel like that's something you want a shout out at the end of the video, go join the Patreon or become a paid YouTube member.